Hi, and welcome to this episode of John's Model Kit Review. Today, I am reviewing Airfix's 1/48 scale Supermarine Seafire F.XVII. The kit number is A06102. This kit is still available on eBay and other online sources. Seafire history. World War II caught the Royal Navy without a capable shipboard fighter. Drastic times call for drastic measures, and so, though never intended as carrier aircraft, the RAF's Hurricane and Spitfire fighters were hastily equipped with arresting gear and put aboard Royal Navy carriers. The Seafire was the Royal Navy's version of the Spitfire. Like the Spitfire, it was constantly upgraded during World War II, keeping it competitive with its adversaries throughout the conflict. The Seafire's airframe was adaptable, able to take on larger engines and higher power while retaining its legendary handling characteristics. Unfortunately, due to the Seafire's light structure and narrow track landing gear, it was never really a suitable carrier-borne fighter, and this resulted in many Seafires being lost upon landing back aboard the Royal Navy carriers. From the kit instructions, the F.XVII was the first of the Seafire variants to feature a cut-down rear fuselage and distinctive teardrop-style canopy, distinguishing it from previous marks of Seafire. Based closely on the preceding Seafire F.XV, the F.XVII also featured a reinforced main undercarriage, which used longer oleos with a lower rebound ratio. This went some way towards taming the deck behavior of the Mark XV, which had resulted in a number of accidents on deck. These changes reduced the chances of the propeller tips striking the deck during landings. Due to reinforcements in the wings, a heavier weapons load was also able to be carried, with both fuel tanks and rockets becoming an option for under the wings. A total of 232 of this variant were produced, with the majority being built by Westland. It remained on the front line until the early 50s, whereupon it was relegated to training duties before being retired. Today, a number still survive. Top speed was 387 miles per hour, range was 435 miles, and the armament consisted of two 20mm Hispano cannons and four 303 machine guns, in addition to the rockets and bombs that could be carried. When released, Airfix's Seafire F.XVII was the first injected plastic kit of this Seafire variant in 1/48 scale. As with most Airfix kits of a few years ago, the F.XVII was nicely molded with a decent cockpit. The instructions were top-notch and presented in booklet form with 4-view color profiles of each of the 3 marking options. The decals were of excellent quality. The clear parts were also of good quality. Though not exceptionally thin, they were reasonably clear. The shape of the finished kit looked true to the prototype, though I admit to not being a rivet counter. This kit has tons of options. One could model the wings folded or straight, flaps up or down, gear up or down, tailhooks stowed or deployed, canopy open or closed, etc. As a nice touch, Airfix provided duplicates of most parts, including 2 complete sets of wings, thus allowing any option to be built without surgery to the kit parts. Very nice. This also provided lots of leftovers for the parts bin. On the downside, the surface detailing of the parts was a bit sparse and heavy-handed, the worst aspect being the trench-like panel lines. The wing trailing edges are thick, and the surface on the plastic is grainy. Overall scale appearance of the finished kit was not up to the refinement of, say, a Hasegawa kit of the late 1990s. Construction. Construction began with choosing what options I wanted on the finished kit. Once that was decided, I began removing the major parts from the sprues and cleaning them up. Next, parts that could be assembled prior to paint were glued together, resulting in a series of sub-assemblies. I then shot the interior with polyscale British interior green and flat black, thinned with future. This semi-gloss finish allowed washes to flow freely and also made it easier to remove excess wash from the high spots. Detailing continued in the cockpit with individual dials cut from a decal sheet and placed on the instrument panel. I added a seatbelt made from evergreen strip. A thin black soapy water wash was applied. Once the wash had dried, I dry brushed the interior with a slightly lighter shade of interior green. With the cockpit complete, I closed up the fuselage. The rest of the airframe was then assembled. I decided to model this aircraft with the flaps dropped as if it had just touched down on the deck. They fit with minor tweaking. The fit of the airframe was good, needing just a bit of putty in the seams. Next came sanding, and more sanding. Determined to get a smooth finish on the plane before paint, I spent several hours sanding and polishing the airframe. Finally, I added the canopy. The clear parts were dipped in future prior to assembly. White glue was used to attach the canopy sections. Once dry, I masked the canopy using Tamiya tape and a new number 11 X-Acto blade. As always, before choosing a color scheme, I searched for photos of Seafire F.XVIIs. I found some great shots of the plane I chose to model in the Encyclopedia of Aircraft of World War II by Amber Books. Having actual photos proved invaluable for the painting and weathering process. I used the markings for a Seafire operated by number 800 Naval Air Squadron, HMS Triumph, at Hull Far, Malta in 1947. I used polyscale acrylics, RLM 84 Sky for the lowers, and RLM 66 for the top colors, since they closely match the beige green and extra dark sea gray called for in the instructions. At this point, I used pastels to emphasize the panel lines and dirty the airframe a bit. The photos of 177 show a very clean aircraft, so I try to keep things subtle, adding just enough shade variation to enhance detail. I then sealed everything with a coat of future in preparation for decals. The kit supplied markings went down beautifully. Once in position, the decals responded well to an application of microsol. After weathering the decals, I gave the plane a final semi-gloss clear coat. Once dry, I added some chipping around maintenance panels with a silver Prismacolor colored pencil. The landing gear, exhaust, and other fiddly bits were added at this time. Final detailing was then completed. Conclusions. I'm happy with the end result. The finished kit looks good on the shelf. The simple color scheme really shows off the beautiful lines of the Seafire F.XVII. Overall, I think the kit is a good value for the money, though it's not in the same league as, say, an Edward Spitfire. Though this kit is simple to build, the higher parts count and many options mean that it is suited to modelers with 1 or 2 kits under their belt. The kit decals are among the best I've used to date. Recommended if you like Spitfires and Seafires and want a complete collection. I'd love to know what you guys think. If any of you have built this kit and have any input to add, please feel free to post that in the comments below. I hope you found this video entertaining and informative, and until next time, model on.